Hello, everyone. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to ILGISA's, I think, first virtual regional meeting. We've done webinars in the past, but this is the first time we've moved some of our regular in-person regional meetings online. We've got some great content lined up for this afternoon. My name is Thomas O'Malley. I will be your host this afternoon. I am the program committee chair this year at ILGISA. So it's the programs committee's responsibility to organize these regional meetings and the annual conference. And well, it's been an interesting year as we've been taking things online instead. So a little bit about ILGISA up front. We are a statewide organization of GIS and geospatial professionals in Illinois. Many of you are members. Some of you maybe are not. Look at the benefits of membership on ilgisa.org and learn more about volunteers like myself and the other committees and directors involved in ILGISA. We advance the understanding, communication, and effectiveness of geospatial technology in Illinois. We connect over 500 members working local, regional, state, and federal government, higher educational institutions, and private industries as well. And we've got a mixed bag of that here today, actually, in our presenters. We strive to offer a wide variety of high-quality, low-cost programs that educate and inform our members, and this is an example of that. So you please do visit ilgisa.org for more information. Throughout the presentations today, we are going to be taking questions in chat. So make sure you know where that is. There should be a hovering bar on your screen. You'll have to go over to the More tab and then Chat, or you can also use Alt-H to bring that up. And that is where we'll be taking questions today. I will be assisting as the speakers talk. I will take a look at the chat, and I'll be able to pop in and interrupt them if need be, just to ask any important questions. And of course, some questions we'll leave till the end. So I probably don't have to tell you, but COVID-19 has changed the way a lot of things are working right now. And we typically would be having these meetings in person. We had some lined up at DuPage County. DePaul University always hosts a great one every year. But we didn't want to put anyone in unnecessary risk. So we have brought these meetings online. And this is the first of its kind, but we do hope the program committee is going to be working very hard to get more of these meetings out to you so that we can continue to share our knowledge together and continue our mission. We will be updating you as those meetings come available. We are still taking, of course, presentation submissions. So go to ilgisa.org, go to our regional meetings page. There will be a form there where you would normally submit to the call for content for regional meetings in person. You can now submit to these online meetings, and we encourage you to do so. We want to hear from as many of you as possible and share knowledge with each other. This is new to us. We do expect that there might be some technical glitches here and there. We've run through a test of this just to make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible. But if somebody does drop off or something, please just be patient with us, and we'll get everybody reconnected as soon as possible. So we have three presentations lined up, and I believe it's. I might just give a couple minutes before I introduce the first, but we're going to give just a few minutes between each presentation, maybe a 5-minute break, just to make sure that everybody has a chance to get up, stretch, grab water, whatever you need to, before, and that'll give us a little time to switch over as well. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming to the meeting today. I hope that you get a lot out of it. I'm excited to see some of these presentations. We've got Micah on deck here. And Micah, could you just pop into chat and let me know you're ready? All right, great. Well, let's get to it then. All right, so our first presentation comes from Micah Williamson of CloudPoint Geographics, and his presentation title is Most Favorite ArcGIS Pro Tips. Micah is interested in you stopping the whining about losing ArcMap and get to ArcGIS Pro already. Micah worked in local government for 12 years until the fall of 2012 when he moved into the private sector with CloudPoint Geographics. Now he clamors across the Midwest, implementing best practice GIS services to anyone who will allow. Micah knows a lot about ArcGIS Pro, and I'm excited for this presentation. So go ahead and take it away, Micah. You can share your screen now.
Sure. Did I write that, or is that you?
You wrote that. That's all on you, buddy.
Okay. All right. Well, hi everybody. Let me share my desktop here, and we'll get going. Hopefully, the binging and pinging will stop for those of you guys who are on the phone. That was kind of a thing on the chat. So, anyway, so yeah, I do want you to stop your whining. But needless to say, ArcGIS Pro is new for all of us, and even though it's been around for 5 years, it's still something that we have to get used to because there's a lot of difference and changes. So I've continued to use it and introduce myself to it, and it's always good to do these presentations so that I have to find out what's new in them. And I will be showing this. This is ArcGIS Pro 2.5. Is the version that I'm showing. So just to let you know where I'm at, and of course ArcGIS Pro updates. So when you log on, if you have admin permissions, you'll be prompted to log and download a new version of ArcGIS Pro if you don't already have it installed. Just to get you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about, these are the top 5+ things that I want to talk about. Contingent values in the database, attribute rules also in the database, feature access, reporting, and scheduling. And those things are great by themselves, but we want to be able to kind of show you those things and how they work and what they do on the back end of things, maybe some gotchas and whatever. So we're going to jump right into demo. And I've got 5 of these things in about 30 minutes, so I've kind of broken everything up into about 6 minutes a piece. So hopefully this will be pretty close to that. I'm working on a Amazon workspace. So just to let you know, my internet is a fairly robust internet. Amazon has great internet on their workspaces. So if you see things that are delayed, it's not my internet connection. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is contingent values. Contingent values. We've all used contingent values before. If you go to Walmart and go get an oil filter in the automotive section, you get up that little box that says what kind of car do you have, what size of engine do you have, and how many wheels does it have. I don't know if you need to know that for an oil filter, but the idea of all of that the selection kind of narrows down based on what it is. Those are contingent values. That's what we're talking about here, and you can implement that. It's kind of like domains 2.0. okay? That's what we'll kind of, because it uses the domains in order to implement these contingent values. All right, what do I mean by that? So I've got this, in Pro, I've got this point layer, and I'm going to actually go in and edit this point layer, and I'm going to select one of these things. And if I select, not necessarily random, but if I select this point in here and look at the attributes over here on the right-hand side, you see that I've got no errors on this, okay? I've got a few of these things that are involved in the contingent value group, and that is the support type, the mast length, if there is a mast, the condition, and the height. Okay, those 4 fields, keep in mind, those 4 fields are the ones in this group to be able to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Now, if I select a different one, also not exactly random, you'll see some errors here. It says, oh wait, you know what, you have a violation here. There's some violation based on your contingent value that you have in your database. There's some violation here. Well, the point is here, it's not 21, it should be 20. And as soon as I change that, you see all of my other values go away, and I can hit apply, and then I know that that is now fixed. Okay, it's updating that, and I'm going to hit save. How do I set that up? How do I set up that thing? And if I look at any one of these, let me just choose another one truly randomly. That one has a problem too. That's going to be the 21. Here's another points. That has a problem too. Depending on what it is, that street light may not be able to have an option for being bent. It only has 2 options of new and okay. Let me show you what I'm talking about. To get to the contingent value in ArcGIS Pro, if I right click on the layer itself in the table of contents and go to design, you'll see in the design new options that you haven't seen before. And this is the plus part of that. If I go into contingent values, I get a new pane. Yes, go ahead. I get a new pane in my view. That view is called the catalog view, and there are all of these different things that you can put in there to be able to have to look at the contingent values. Sorry, my eye is bugging me. I'm rubbing my eye for those people who can't see me on the screen. All right, these contingent values that I've got here are essentially all the different variations of those 4 fields. All right, I don't have all of them here because if you take the amount of entries that I've got in the domains and the amount of things, I could you can get how that could be. You could have hundreds of those, and the different options and the different values that are all in there. If it doesn't apply in one of these, if your variable doesn't apply to one of these things that are in there, that's when you get those red outlines on the fields. So you have to put those in there, and it's as simple as adding a new one. I can just say, hey, you know, streetlights. I want to add streetlights are 99, and let's say, you know what, we want to be able to say you can have a bent streetlights and 20 feet tall, or whatever it is. And then if I I can't hit save. Okay, here's the thing. The save button is currently disabled due to the unsaved edits in one or more of the projects. So I have to go back to my map, and I have to save the edits. Yes, save the edits. And as soon as it saves, I go back to the contingent values. Now I can hit save. And so essentially, I've just added that last little one down at the very bottom, that 20 foot height, bench conditioned 99, which is like a no change, and then the street light. I've added that option to my variables that are valid, right? So you can see how you can really add a lot of these if you needed to. So how do you do that easily? Excel. But it gives you an option to import or to export. So I can export these to a CSV, or I can input a CSV in order to do this. So if you're more comfortable with doing all this in Excel and you're a little bit faster on that, you can do that with importing the CSV. All right, so that's a contingent value. I've got, I want to move on to attribute rules. So I'm going to close this. There's more in all of these, and there, restart my timer. The attribute rules. All right, so attribute rules are just as cool, and all of these things build on each other. Attribute rules are exactly how they are what you would think. They all interact with each other. It's kind of like automatic field calculations, which is fairly cool. So let's show you what I'm talking about. If I hit select, and I'm going to select one of these. There we go. Select one of these, and what I want you to look at down here is the latitude and longitude. So if you see that latitude and longitude down there with all of those numbers, we're not really looking for you to memorize those. I'm going to move this point, and I want you to watch when I apply the change. Come on. When I apply the change, what happens? So I'm grab that point, and let's move it way over here on the other side of town. And as soon as I hit this check mark, you'll see that those change. You see how they changed? That is every time you apply and edit, all of those attribute rules get engaged, or however you want it to be set up. You can interact with different layers and attribute rules. And there's the other aspect of what I've got in this one is this field. Let's choose a different one with an address that's a valid address. Oh, good. This one doesn't have a field address mailing is not edited. So as I move this, and if I hit check, you see that a couple things happened. The latitude and longitude changed. Then it also populated this last field. And this is what's in that last field. It takes the address of the various address fields, and then it'll populate it into the address and the city, state, zip with whatever format I want. And in fact, I need to choose on this one because of a rule. I have to give it a field. If I hit apply, it'll say 173. Maybe it doesn't have that part of that. But anyway, I want to show you how this works. Okay, how does this one work? So if I go into, again, right click on the layer, go down to design, and choose attribute rules, I'll open up a new pane or a new window that has my attribute rules of this particular layer. So you can see that I have latitude and longitude. The code for this is fairly easy. It's arcade. Has to be arcade right now, but it's arcade. And this is just grabbing the X of the geometry of the feature. This is grabbing the Y of the geometry of the feature. Yes, you can try to do that with state plane or local coordinates, but it's more of an expression. So the X and Y in this case is latitude and longitude. And how do I want to do the address? Okay, this is a little bit of more of a script, more involved of a script. It's again arcade. And this one, Aaron from our office did a great blog post on this, and that's what I stripped, robbed that. And I'm sure she got it from somebody on YouTube or something like that. There's lots of examples and lots of very smart people that do this. So this essentially skips anything. If there's not a variable in the field, it'll skip the fields. And if I have to go, if it's empty, it'll skip it. And what it essentially does is concatenate the address number, the pre-address abbreviation, the street name, the post, the community, and the colon right there, see the colon? And the post, community, state, and zip. So it takes all of those fields and puts them into one field. Every time that field gets calculated on an insert or an update, it'll calculate that field, okay? So that is an attribute that fits with what we're doing in this project. This is a sample of some data that we used in a larger project. What I want to show in this, that's how you get to that. Another way that you get to that is through the catalog pane. The catalog pane in Pro is a true catalog like you have in our catalog. It does all of the same things. So I can right click on this layer. I can go to this same, I can look at my domains. I can manage. That means if I were on an enterprise, I could set to be able to be versioned or not versioned, and I can compress and do all that kind of stuff that I would want to here. I'm just going to open up the database on this side of things because what I want to go is I want to drill into that layer and click on one of these, the support layer that I had the contingent values on. And if I hit design on this, that's how I can get to those contingent values. Here's another thing in this catalog view is the field view. The field design tool is great. It's one of my still favorite things. This is a plus. This isn't one of the 5 that I'm talking about, but I love this view. If you have a really complicated database, fields, then you can have a lot of views in here, a lot of fields. And you can look at this and see what data type it is. If you need to assign a domain to it or whatever, that's how you create the domain. That's how you assign a domain. You can get a default all of the fields at once. You can look at all of them together. You can add a new field. Here's one thing. If it's a feature, if it's a file geodatabase, watch. Oh, come on. I did this earlier, I promise. I was able to move the fields, of course. Some variation or something like that is disallowing me to move the fields, but I was able to move the field, I promise. So some little thing allows us to move a field. But there's one gotcha on this. The one gotcha is if you add contingent values or if you add attribute rules, guess what? You can't look at that in ARC catalog or ARC map. In fact, here's what it is. If I drill in and look at this, find the database that I'm looking at, I can see the database. I can see some of the feature classes that I don't have a attribute rule or a contingent value with. But if I click on that supports, the one that I have the contingent value, I get an error. I can't even preview it in our catalog. Same thing happens, actually it might fail on me. No, same thing happens on the ones that have attribute rules on. I get the same error. It doesn't know what to do with that. ARC catalog and ARC map weren't built to use attribute rules or contingent values, so they don't know what to do with it, so it just blows up. Okay, so that's a gotcha. It's kind of a big gotcha, but you see what they're doing. They're pushing us to use Pro, and they're giving us more tools, bigger carrots, and then still a stick to get off of our catalog. So you want those cool things, you have to play their game. So I'm going to close a couple of these things and move on to my number 3. Is feature access. Okay, feature access, which is not doesn't sound like a huge deal, but this is a point layer that we've got various things for. This is all fake data, so don't be. I don't know if Daniel Bishop is on, but don't be mad at me, Daniel. This is not a good representation of Kankakee County. But this is features that we can access and edit and see. Now there's a little bit of a delay and you probably wonder why. It's because this is a feature access that sits on ArcGIS Online. So if I go to the source tab, you can see that these layers are on ArcGIS Online. Source properties. And I see the source of this being an ArcGIS Online database. So the feature access that we have can be local and it works the same way if it's on ArcGIS Online. One thing that is a benefits of this now at 2.5, I'm going to move this dot down to here, and hopefully I get a little warning. Not a warning, an information box. It's not a warning. It's an information box that says, hey, you know what? You can do undos. Just to let you know, you can do undos now on feature layers that live in Portal or live on ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Online, you can have undo is allowed. So the undo, I always leave that say okay in case I want to show that to somebody, but they accumulate here. So on this undo feature up at the top corner, you can say that I added all of these things. I can go back, I can change, and I can, anytime up until the point that I hit save, I can hit undo, right? Or close the project. I'm just gonna go ahead and save on this and save my edits. So that undo feature now is available to us when we access feature access. And what I mean by that is if I go to the catalog pane and go into my portal, I've just pulled that in from my content on ArcGIS Online. I pulled that in from, I think it's the feature layers, and I just, there it is right there, grabbed it and pulled it over onto my map, all right, add to current map. So that's how I added that from ArcGIS Online, and that's how I can use an undo within a pro project. It makes it look and feel a lot like it's just a file geodatabase or enterprise database on your system. Okay, that's feature access. That's number 3. Number 4. Yep. Number 4 is reports. So again, we have a map here that I ripped right from ArcGIS Online. This is actually Esri's map that I just added to my own as a web map. And it is a web map. If I actually go into the portal that I've got and go back to my web map folder, this is my content of ArcGIS Online. I've got this unemployment last month. That is what I added to this project. And you can see within the projects, if I go to maps, you'd see that it's a linked map. That means it's linked from ArcGIS Online. It lives on ArcGIS Online. But what I want to do is I want to create a report with the data that we have in here. So the data that we have is these two layers. It's not the it's unemployment trend and unemployment trends. Oh, come on, Esri, that's two names of the same layer. You got to give it, but that's fine. But we're going to make a report. So if I go up to the Insert tab and hit New Report, these reports are much better than they used to be able to create a report of just your data. You have all this information. Normally what you and I and everybody who would do is you pull it into Excel or pull it into Word or something like that to be able to make a report. Once you do that, your data is broken. The link to your data is broken. So Esri has allowed us to have pretty decent reports in order to have live connection to our data. And this one, again, is live to ArcGIS Online. So we're going to have this report and we're going to say, you know, just choose one of these two identically named layers and hit next. And we're not going to use everything. We're going to only use Illinois. So let's say new expression where state is Illinois. Right? Leave that clause right there. And I'm going to go and say, okay, what fields do you want to look at? Well, if I had all of these fields, the thing would be 900 pages long. So I'm just going to say, you know what? I just want the name. I want the county name. I don't even want the state because I'm making an Illinois report. If you say, okay, I want make this a little bit bigger so we can see all those field names. I want the count of the people in the most current month. I want the count of the people in the 13 months ago. I want the count of the population in the most current month. I want the count of population, of employee population 13 months ago. I'm just picking, let's pick 5. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one more %. And then I hit next. Those 6 fields that I've got, I'm not going to sort them right now. I hit next again. There's various styling that you can use, or you can use various templates. And as you can see, you can make your own template and kind of make it a little bit prettier. I'm just going to hit finish. And in Pro, it's going to give me another item. It's going to give me another item in here to be able to have in my project. It looks simple. It looks like one sheet of paper. Well, actually, it's not. If I just go in and hit share and share this as a PDF, it'll actually make a report, a 4-page report. You can say it's saving page and exporting page 2 of 4, and then hopefully it'll open it up and yep. So open it up in Firefox, and it's just a PDF. If I scroll down, the first page just says report, and then it has all the information based on the county, the count of, and see, I don't like this up here. This just says count of. That's not exactly helpful. You don't really even know what that is. But it's a linked, it's a report that is directly from my data, right? So you know what I can go into here and change these field names, and in the interest of time and the magic of doing this beforehand, I have a report that was already made. So I have this styled unemployment report. I made it made the title a little bit bigger because it's just 1 page. I only spent, honestly, about 15 or 15 minutes to a half hour going through and symbolizing and doing some of this stuff, just because I wanted to see what it was and how it worked. It's not that this is some great report or how I can do it. I just want to be able to see what I could do. Well, I figured out that I could add a box on the bottom. I could change the name of some of these fields so I could make them smaller, make the text smaller by double clicking on the text. It would pop up over in the box over here to be able to change that. There's the county name. I added some stylizing to this to be able to kind of add a little bit of interest in it and make it look a little bit nicer. Again, I only spent about 20 minutes on this. If you spend a couple hours, you actually might be able to make a really good report. And each one of these, you can see, you can add these boxes that you have that are associated over here. You could put smart code, or you could put rich text or things like that to be able to kind of add and do some a little bit more complicated reporting. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to hit PDF, and it's going to make this probably overwrite the existing file, and it's going to make a PDF, same data, just styled in a little bit of a different way. And this may or may not seem like that important to you, but getting data in a nice way out of GIS is something that people have wanted for a long time. And so this is just a little bit of stylizing in it. I'm sure there's a way to make things, every other, highlighted every other row to be able to kind of look like a table that you wanted to give to a city council or something like that. But that's just a little bit of time that I spent to be able to kind of do that. Oh, the other thing on this is you see that a lot of these have the red squiggly lines. And for example, I even misspelled this one intentionally, because spell check, ArcMap, you would always paste it in Word, make sure it looks right and spelled right in Word, take the code and put it, or take the text and put it into your ArcMap document because it didn't have spell check. So in 2.5, spell check is available to us, so we don't have to embarrass ourselves and misspell Illinois or something like that. Obviously, you get spell check, you get the squiggly lines under things that it doesn't necessarily understand what it is. That's the field value, so you don't really worry about that. But the things that you're concerned about, you need to have spelled right? So that's kind of a cool thing. Spell check is a good thing. Let's see. I lost my timer, but 2:38. Okay, all right. Just a few other things. My last thing is geoprocessing. Scheduling geoprocessing. How cool is that to be able to schedule a geoprocessing tool? So if I'm going to do this, let's close this, close a couple of geoprocessing. There it is. Let's come on. Ready to use tools. Let's type spatial. Great time to do this. Okay, while this is doing this, some of the things that I'm not going to, we don't have, obviously have time about, but I want you just to bring up to you, there it is. Model Builder is got horsepower added to it like you wouldn't believe. There's lots of enhancements in Model Builder with iterations and things like that. Those are fantastic. Layouts, obviously, layouts are great with all of the additions to things. Infographics, 3D view, sharing directly to ArcGIS server. That's a great way to be able to do that. And there's this whole pooling process and how many processors you want to dedicate, and you could use shared resources now. I'm sorry, I don't have time. Autosaves are great, and of course, the infamous thing that really personally got me going on Pro was the ArcGIS Solutions Deployment Tool. So look into that. That's a wonderful thing too. But let me just show you this. Let's say really quickly, we want to use our features to our fire districts, give it a spatial join 1-to-1, sure, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. But the point is down here, there's a caret arrow down beside the run. You hit that one, and then you can say, you know what? I want to schedule this for later. And I can do this not only later, I can do this on a reoccurrence. So join, it can't have any spaces. I found that out the hard way. I think any special characters at all. I don't know why. But you know what? I want to do this monthly on all months on the first day of the month. So I go 1, and then monthly, don't repeat, and just hit schedule. Oh, I added a space or something like that. Shoot. Okay. Schedule. Special join. Monthly. all months on one and hit schedule. Okay, don't worry about it. It works. There's some other error, and in the interest of time, if to find that again, you would go to your analysis and then your history, and that is where you would have your scheduling process for your schedule tools. That's where I was going to show you that's where I could find that again. So this is this little calendar here, and again on the geoprocessing, there's a little caret drop down there for that. So I think
Mike,
yep.
I just want to give you a quick question from chat here. They ask, can the scheduled geoprocessing tools run when ArcPro is not active?
Yes, but you have to set in your, I'm determined to do this. You have to set that allow me to log in. There's a, okay, that worked, great, okay. Allow login even when I'm not available. Automatic log, essentially automatic when you start up. So what will happen in the background is if you say, yeah, go ahead and log in as me, whenever you start Pro, then what will happen is it will open Pro in the background and run the process. And that is under the options to be able to kind of log in as that. So that is also, if you go into, you can see where that error or that warning is. Go back. Schedule, when I open up the schedule thing, there's a little tool that says learn more about scheduling tools, and then opens up a help document. And that's one of the top things in there. It says you have to, scheduling tool requires that process must be saved. It also says that you have to choose sign me in automatically. That's one of the requirements. I think we're running we're running out of time a little bit. Are there any other questions? I want to allow some time for questions. There, see if we have this. There's our schedule task.
So first question from Andrew, are the reports meant for those who may not be able to create or design reports in an RDBMS such as SQL, Oracle, Crystal reports?
Yeah, we used to have Crystal reports. You remember that? If you know, we used to have those Crystal reports, and you had to have that something installed on there. But for whatever reason, the reports that ArcMap had in subsequent years was awful. So this is kind of going back to a little bit of that. And there's a lot of stylizing that you can add to it. But yeah, it's designed for you to be able to kind of take and make your own. But it's much like Crystal reports kind of used to be.
And Alex asks, what does the ArcGIS Solutions Deployment Tool do?
Oh, so the Solutions Deployment Tool. So let's get off this reports and go to share in order to see those. That's where it is. I don't know why it's been added to the share ribbon, but that's where it is. The Solutions Deployment Tool. You have to sign into ArcGIS Online, and you can choose a solution from Esri's library, huge library of solutions. So you can say, you know what, I need a tree inventory. So you would find a tree inventory in the Solutions Deployment Tool, or I need to create a solution for a map change request for my electrical utility, or a dashboard, and it will create all of the shell of all those things, including the web map, the feature layers, and the applications if you don't already have them. It's a pretty robust and powerful tool. You have to then either add data to it or import your data into the process. There's lots of YouTubes and things like that online to be able to use the Solutions Deployment Tool, and it's also supported. So it's from the guys of the local government's team at Esri, so they actually support it too, so you can ask for help.
I'll just add to that, Esri has a great coronavirus local government solution to help you create a hub page for your residents to go to. From Barry, we have another question. Can you give an example of an attribute rule that doesn't involve coordinates or geometry, or is it just for putting geometry into feature attributes?
No, so the other one that I've got in here is the, let me go back to content, table of contents. It's just attributes. So I go to design, click on the layer, design attribute rules is the quick way that I get to it. Latitude and longitude, those are easy. Here, the bottom one that I've got is it concatenates all of the fields that we want to have in the last attribute. So this last one that I've got takes all of these fields and puts them all into one field with a colon and let me, if I hit this expression, we can kind of see the expression better. So I hit that little, I don't know if you saw what I did. I hit a little green X, and then we can see they have a little bit bigger of a canvas to work with. So essentially what it does is it goes in and concatenates all of the fields that we want to into one field for our like our mailing label. That's the idea of this one, is a mailing label. And right now, just arcade. So you have to kind of learn and use arcade, which is Esri's, not Apple's arcade, Esri's arcade. There are a ton of other options or other ones that we have. You can actually interact with other layers. You can do like, if you move a point from one polygon over to another polygon, you can do an intersect and pull information for that one that's underneath it and change attributes within that one. So that's actually a pretty powerful one too. They can get really complicated very quickly. But that's one example. Aaron from our office wrote a good blog on this. By no means the only voice on the internet. There's tons of other options. There's a couple of really good Esri people that give away a bunch of their attribute rules that you can hack and slash and do other things with. Really powerful tool. I look forward to using it a little bit more. But again, it kills ArcMap and our catalog. It kills you to be able to use that on that and certain levels of enterprise too. All kinds of good news. Any other questions?
The chat is quieted. I think that you've sufficiently answered all the questions we have. If something pops up in the next minute or so, we can tackle it. But we're almost out of time for.
Okay. It was 45, right? 2:45.
Yep. So we're just about ready to change over again.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Great. There's lots that we can kind of look at. We didn't even show you any of the those other ones that I wanted to. Sharing the server is a big one to be able to kind of do. Mono Builder is also cool. So if I'm going to go to analysis and open up Mono Builder, and opens up a canvas in my document that I can add things, and it gives me a tool. So iterators and logical steps, those are cool. So you can iterate through entire files or folders and just find certain things, or a for loop. Those are helpful, or logical. You can insert if this, then that, if that, then this. So all of those different types of tools are available to us now in Model Builder. So you can really kind of crank up your tool, and then all of turning that into a tool and publishing that, all of that stuff is available to be able to kind of to do that. So yeah, well, if there's no other questions, I'll hand it back over. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take over. Don't worry about it. I'll take over the screen share. Thank you, Micah.
You bet.
A lot of good information there, and we were able to tackle all the questions too. Great presentation. Okay. We're going to have just a few minutes between presentations here, but I'll also, I know I want to address some of the issues we had up front. I know we had some complaints about a lot of dings coming through. I think that, I hope that has slowed down now. Let me know if it hasn't. I think it was just in particular phone users were still getting the dinging sound when somebody joined the call. So that I think that we just had a rush of people jumping on in those first 10 minutes, and I hope that has subsided now. We'll see if we can mute that in the future, if that's something that we're able to do. I believe the computer users are not having this issue, just those who have dialed in. Our next presenter, yep, we got a couple of people from chat saying that switching to the computer fixed it for him. So if you are able to do that, please do. You can join with audio, and the presentation will come through your computer speakers then, or your headphones. And of course, there's a visual component to a lot of these presentations that if you can see them, you'll want to. Yep. Okay. I think that we will hopefully have the dings sorted out for next time, and our the recording that we'll post of this presentation will not have them included. So I am going to give everyone a few minutes to grab water, stretch, use the facilities, whatever you need to, and when we come back, we'll get started with our next presentation from Kari. So I'll pop back in a few minutes, and then we'll get going again. All right, thanks everyone. Okay, everyone, it is 2:50, so we are going to start our next presentation from Kari. Kari's presentation is on more efficient GIS projects, employing data management and best practices. Kari Ann Buckfold is a GISP and has been a GIS professional with 15 years of experience at Jacobs Engineering, formerly CH2M Hill, using GIS in transportation, environmental, and water projects. She has been a GISP since 2015, served on the ILGISA Education Committee, and has presented at the Esri UC. She is passionate about GIS project organization and data management, including database design and map template development. Kari is responsible for data development using software tools such as Network and Spatial Analyst, and tool development using Model Builder and Python/ArcPy, and visualizing data through web mapping tools and printed maps. She is also proficient at using Power BI reports and dashboards to visualize related multidiscipline project data. Thank you, Kari. Take it away. And remember, you can ask questions in the chat.
Thank you very much, Tom. I do want to let you know that I do have the chat feature open, so I can hopefully see your questions and answer as I see them. As mentioned, I'm going to talk about more efficient GIS projects employing data management best practices. All right. My objective is that by intelligently organizing and cataloging your data, you can ensure that your project operates smoothly, oncoming staff are easily orientated at any stage, and anyone can quickly get historical context for current questions and issues. Now, I want to mention that this is not a very technical talk. In fact, a lot of this is going to seem very elementary. I developed this talk as an orientation for new and junior staff and thought it might be of interest to other GIS users. And maybe you know a lot of this, but maybe it'll help you to design an orientation for your new staff. None of these habits are etched in stone, and you might have found things that work better for you. I should preface the types of projects I work on and thus shape these habits are construction projects that are time sensitive with a lot of moving parts, like land acquisition, utility relocation, geotechnical and environmental borings that involve a lot of players such as sub-consultants and government agencies. And some of this might sound a little Captain Obvious, but hopefully you'll get something out of it. The 5 critical habits I've identified for successful GIS data management is cataloging your source data, storing data in a geodatabase, archiving data in an archived geodatabase, creating and updating metadata, and employing search indexing folders in our catalog. So let's talk about the first one. So cataloging your source data. Chances are you don't create all of your own data. You likely get it from other sources, like downloading data from government sites, or clients or sub-consultants will email or post your data for your project that you may or may not use. This, of course, is outside of ArcGIS Online services that you might pull into your mapping documents. Whether you use it or not, it's a good idea to file it away so that there's a reference of the data and the contact information just in case you need to follow up. Arrangements of folders for each source are in File Explorer, and I employ the structure of having a root source data folder, and then I add who folders and then when folders within that. So the who is your client, your agency, or sub-consultant. And the when is the date as year, month, and date. And I like the 6-digit year, month, date format. So for example, in my source folder, I will have a folder for IDOT, and then I will create a folder for data that I received on my birthday last year of March 16, 2019. Your new source folder will contain the data from the attachment or the download, as well as the email, which you copy directly from Outlook, or a web link shortcut. Now you can also create an exploratory MXD or ArcGIS Pro document to look at the data itself. And that I find is super helpful when you want to explore the data in the context of your existing data. You might also want to include an exploratory geodatabase to do exploring as well, if you want to do intersects or unions. And this is particularly useful when looking at rasters. So I know Micah might have something to say about me using screenshots of ArcCatalog, and I do use ArcGIS Pro, but we have some legacy personal geodatabases that's slowing down my curve for actually being more nimble in ArcGIS Pro. I'm actually better in ArcCatalog. So it'll have to do for now, maybe next time. So I want to show you an example of what I was talking about. So I have a source data folder, and this screenshot is for a project that I work on with the Red Cross. I do some volunteer work with them. So I will get data from, I have two sources here. I have one from the city of Chicago, and a couple years ago, I downloaded the neighborhood boundaries layer. And then I also have a source folder for the Red Cross. And these are different tables that I'll receive from Jim McGowan, who works at the Red Cross. So this is what the setup looks like in File Explorer. I have the data that I downloaded, and then I have a web shortcut to the City of Chicago data portal in case I want to go back and download the data again. Now, one other clue I would offer, or one other tip I would offer, is to have save the website or the Outlook email as a PDF. Since websites and Outlook tend to change or move or migrate, then you'll have a reference for the exact source. I also have an exploratory MXD. In this case, I wanted to see how the neighborhoods lined up with our other project areas and test out applying neighborhood names to a point file. Here's another example in our project data catalog. Now, this is a project that we've been working on since 2012. And this is what we've been doing the whole time, and it's really served us well. So you'll see on the far left, we have our source data folder, and then we have folders for each of our sub-consultants or our government agencies. So you can see we have the EPA, we have ESRI, we have PACE. So and then within an example of that, ASE is our main surveyor, and they send us a lot of plats. So in this case, I've actually added folders for each year that we've received data for them. Now, most of what we use to update our project land acquisition layer, and then we never really need it again. Brandon sends us the plats via email. We keep his email so we have context for the data that he's sending us. Is it complete? Is it in progress? And is a future version pending? Another benefit of keeping these emails is that if someone leaves either company, there's an electronic paper trail. For example, Brandon no longer works with ASE, but that doesn't mean I can use this email to forward to his replacement to follow up on any questions I may have had on this past sent data, whether I corresponded with the sender or not. Another nifty trick that I learned was to add the commonly used files to the new context menu, so that when you right-click within a folder, you can create an MXD or ArcGIS Pro project directly in the folder. I have an online article I refer to, but if you Google add item to new context menu, you'll likely come up with the same similar article. The next tip I want to talk about is storing your data in a geodatabase. This one feels obvious, but there are a lot of folks that still like shapefiles. My personal opinion is that all project data should be in a standard project coordinate system. So what I do is I create a standard data set that's empty and blank, and there are no feature classes in there, but it's in the coordinate system that I want to use. And so when I need a new theme, other than boundaries or flood zones, I can just copy and paste that into my database and rename it to the theme that I want to. Now, there are different schools of thought that data sets should not be used for organization. They should be used for little projects, your little projects of topology or a network analyst. But I gotta tell you, this works really well for me. Another benefit of using a geodatabase is that you can build relationships. For example, here we have our land use polygon. We also have a land use jurisdiction table. And we want to relate those two, so we build a relationship class that ties those two together. Another benefit of using geodatabases is you can build toolbox within a geodatabase. And so, for example, up here, going back to the Red Cross project that I work on, I created a tool that takes a CSV file with XY points and appends the Chicago neighborhood to it and exports it out as a new Excel table. My third tip is to create an archive geodatabase. Now, in this case, you'll see that I have a sample project, our sample project geodatabase, and then I've also created another geodatabase called sample project, but underscore archive. And not all the features need to go in your archive geodatabase, just when you no longer need them or you want to back them up. And you can either back up individual feature classes, or you might archive a whole data set. And that's applicable when you get new data. So it's helpful to know why you archive data and what that all means. So my fourth tip is to create and update your metadata. Now, this doesn't need to be fancy, but at the very least, you should talk about who imported and created the data. So for example, I did this in October of 2014. And I always like to start off with where the original data came from. In this case, I got it from the ABC Incorporated company, and I pulled it in. And I also made a reference to those source folders I was talking about if you want to go see the original data. I mentioned that I archived the data on St. Patrick's Day in 2017 because I knew a bunch of attribute changes were pending. Additionally, a few months later, we received an addendum from another company, and so we wanted to replace our wetland layer with all this new data. But we want to keep a copy of the old data just in case. Additionally, the following year, we clipped the wetland layer to the revised boundary. And I always like to include the steps that I use to do this. So I mentioned which system tool I used, and then I mentioned the other data that was involved in the geoprocessing. Another thing I like to do is mention the MXD that we did the work in, because you probably know there's a results tab that will tell you all the geoprocessing results that you ran, which is really helpful if you want to try to replicate or find an explanation why your data doesn't look right. So this is helpful for understanding why historical data on reports are inconsistent with current results. And as a case study, we had a long-lasting but sporadic project, so it's not always at the top of the mind. We initially created a wetland impact report, and the acreages weren't lining up with what the acreages were now. And instead of having to go back to different emails, different figures, and all sorts of reports, we were just able to quickly look at the metadata and see that we created a whole new wetland layer in October of 2017. So it's not really surprising that the acreages were different. Additionally, we could go back and look at the exact layer that we used for the wetland intersect report. Do this right and it will make your life so much easier. There have been times where I've looked at metadata and I had even no recollection of writing it. but I really do appreciate my 2017 self for putting in the effort. I do get some pushback that it's too much work, that there's no time. But if you have this system down, it takes like 15 to 30 minutes. How much time do you think will it take to unravel this 2 to 3 years from now when no one can remember what was done? Imagine thumbing through all those email and project folders. The last tip I want to talk about is creating a search indexing folders in ARC Catalog. And again, this is old school ARC Catalog, but I bet you can do this in ArcGIS Pro now. In ARC Catalog, you can run the index tool. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the search window, and you can do a drop down and set up how you want to index your project folders. And this will help you be able to search your actual data by keywords. So this is what this looks like. So in the search function, I put the keyword neighborhood because I was looking for those neighborhood boundaries that I did for the Red Cross. If you have the all option selected, it's going to pull up the neighborhood toolbox, as well as any tool that has neighborhood within the tool description. But look here. Here are my neighborhood boundaries that I did for the Red Cross, which is exactly what I was looking for. Additionally, you can create your search so that you're just looking at the data, so that my neighborhood boundaries pop right up. So there it is. Those are my 5 critical habits for successful data management in GIS. And again, they are cataloging your source data, storing them in files or folders with the source name and the date, storing your data in a geodatabase, which hopefully you all do anyway, archiving your data in an archive geodatabase, which is a replicate of your working geodatabase, creating and updating metadata. Make those notes. And then finally, creating search indexing folders within our catalog so you can search for keywords on your data. Thank you. I wonder if you have any questions. If not, I'll hand it back over to Thomas and we can get ready for the next presentation.
Yeah, if you want to keep it on you for just a couple more minutes in case we do have questions come in, we have the time for it. So yeah, I encourage you all to head to chat and ask any questions you may have. And in a few minutes, we will drop back I'll take over control again, and then we'll have Patrick start his presentation. But I'll leave it for a few minutes to add questions for Kari to address. Hi, Kurt. We have a question from Ankit. Why archive to geodatabase? Why is archiving to geodatabase better than archiving to a file geodatabase?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I used a file geodatabase for both. It's just making copies of your data at critical points in time before you create a lot of attribute changes or before you update to a different version. And again, there's no hard and fast rules to this. You know, maybe you're on a routine where you archive your data, you know, every month. But we found that archiving and creating a copy or a snapshot is just really effective when you have a project that changes over time. But everything is in a file geodatabase. Not sure if that answered your question. The way you edit your metadata is, I don't know if I have a screen share, but when you go to the description tab, actually, maybe I can just share my screen real quick. Right. I'm gonna borrow the screen share again. So if you go up here, if you go in the description window of your data, you hit description and edit, you can edit right in there. And then be sure to hit save, as always. Does that answer your question, Erin? I'm almost positive you can do this in Pro as well.
It might be a Micah question if he can pop in.
Yeah, there's ability to edit in metadata in Pro as well. It's in the catalog pane or the catalog view.
Okay, thanks again, Kari. We're going to take, I'm going to give everybody another 5-minute break here. And Patrick, whenever you are ready, you may share your screen and I'll pop back on in about 5 minutes to give you a proper introduction. Okay, everyone. It looks like Patrick is ready to go. It's been about 5 minutes, so we are going to get going again. And so Patrick is here to talk to us about Walgreens GIS use cases. Patrick Corellis is a GIS project manager at Walgreens. He got his Bachelor of Science in Meteorology and Geography from Northern Illinois University. He started off interning for WGN TV's Tom Skilling, went on to work in GIS for Lake County local government, and after that continued his career in GIS at Walgreens for the last 9 years. Patrick currently lives in Chicago with his dog, Maya, I hope I pronounced that right, and loves to travel and geocache. Okay, Patrick, take it away whenever you're ready.
Perfect, thank you. Hopefully everyone could see me and see my screen. So I just wanted to explain how Walgreens uses GIS. I felt like this was a good presentation because a lot of the times people ask me, oh, how does Walgreens use GIS? So I have a lot of good content in here on how we use it. I'm going to start off with some just information about the company and how many stores we have. So we have approximately 9,000 stores across the US, including Puerto Rico and a store in the Virgin Islands. Virtually every state has a store except in North Dakota. We only have a couple of front-end stores in Fargo because there's a state law there where you can't operate chain pharmacies. They like the independent mom and pop pharmacies, which is fine. But there's a couple CVS's there which were grandfathered in before the law took place, I think in the 80s, but we've expanded our footprint across the US and continue to grow a little bit. An example of how we grew was the Rite Aid acquisition. This was a big project for me. Originally, we were going to buy all 4,000 Rite Aids across the US, which there's Rite Aids in California and the Pacific Northwest. There's more Rite Aids across Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio. I had to make 4,000 maps for the government, basically showing that we weren't monopolizing, things like that. And we're saying, no, we don't have a good store base in Maine and Vermont. We only have 4 stores. Really, it'll really help our footprint. So we went back and forth, and we ended up getting half of it. And these were the ones they offered, so we took them. But making those 4,000 maps quickly, I was able to use some Python scripts and do some of those time map series to export those maps ring by ring, store by store for the government, so they can look at each and every store and see what the competitive outlook was for those stores. So this was a pretty significant project that I was a part of that GIS was heavily used in. People need to know where these Rite Aids are and whether to close the Walgreens, close the Rite Aid, keep both. I mean, there's a lot of statistical, analytical data needed for that and knowledge. We also have a lot of health services, about 350 or so, and these are basically not retail stores, but other community, like the hospital in Niles and Des Plaines. They have Walgreens inside those hospitals. So those are like where people can go ahead and get their script filled at the hospital. We have mail order pharmacies, specialty pharmacies. We have pharmacies inside corporate offices, such as our own corporate office. We have a mini pharmacy in there. We have clinics inside different corporate offices. We have a pharmacy inside Disney World for employees there. We have a pharmacy at MGM on the Strip for employees there. So we have a wide variety of pharmacy types. This is something that I help supply chain with. So different department, they want to know where their distribution centers are and which stores service which distribution centers. And I kind of help them allocate the store to distribution center selection to make sure that we're utilizing that to the best of the ability. This kind of helps them determine where to send their trucks. If the trucks are going too far, they need to add more stores, add another distribution center. And they also, sorry about that. There's also different things like when we acquired the Rite Aids, like where those were going to go. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because I invented this app, pretty much, this story map, and it's accessed by the public. It's the Walgreens Flu Index, and basically what it is, it's an ArcGIS online story map, and I update it every week through flu season, which is September through March. And basically it shows what the flu is like across the US. And the way we get that data is we have customers going to our stores, getting diagnosed with the flu from their doctor or hospital, and they get a Tamiflu prescription. And we know which stores are filling those Tamiflu prescriptions and on average how many they fill. And when we see when a store is filling a high amount of flu prescriptions, then we can determine, oh, the flu is pretty high in that area. So this is just a static map of what it looks like, but I can pull it up here in ArcGIS Online. So this was the most recent one that I had done. It was at the end of March, at the end of the flu season. And the public can go around and click on the different states and see what the flu is like in their area. There's some information in here about the top 10 DMA markets, which are the designated market areas, the TV and radio ads, and then the top 10 states. And then the customers can also go ahead and search in their own markets what's going on. So we want to see what it was like in Chicago. They can see what the ranking is there. Gee, this connection is a little better. Top 10 states are over here. And then I do this flu index time lapse. So I'm working on the current season right now. And this was fun, just taking every feature class of every week of every state, combining it into one, and then adding a time reference to it, end of week date, and then creating this into a time lapse. So then customers can see, around what time the flu starts getting bad. It encourages customers to get their flu shot. And you can see there's a slight peak just after Thanksgiving as people start traveling across the US. And then the main peak is usually in mid-February. And that's right around when COVID-19 started to impact us as well. So there's this mix of flu and COVID-19 and what was going on there. So this was utilized for that to determine where they should still stock things like cough and cold medications in the stores for the flu, people that have the flu. And then we have some of our programs here, the Get a Shot, Give a Shot program. So any flu shots that people get in the US, we send to these 4 countries. So I was able to create this in ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. And just put a little notation here saying that Walgreens would donate up to $2.6 million in flu shots to these countries. Then there's a little YouTube video here. And then the customer can also go here and see which store is closest to them. They can zoom in, they can go to our store locator, gives them a phone number, they can look it up on walgreens.com. So again, this is accessed by the public, and it's something that I maintain every week. So a couple of years ago, I was brought in to help with hurricanes. And I just want to show this quick video on how the hurricanes from 2017 impacted Walgreens.
The 2017 hurricane season was the biggest hurricane season we've seen in a long time. We had 3 major hurricanes that came through and impacted many of our stores over the course of about 30 days. We had over 450 stores that were impacted with Harvey. We had over 850 stores that were impacted with Irma, and we had 121 stores that were impacted with Maria.
Entire communities were just devastated, and all their homes have been gutted.
Our house was getting flooded pretty fast, and from the front door to my car was just a power of rain. They come down here in 2 trucks and 4 kayaks, and he took us to his house. We spent the night there.
I mean, some folks, they lost their home, lost their car, but their main priority was to get to work and help customers and help patients out.
They were very thankful that we were open. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that were just, thank you so much for having the store open.
Well, during Hurricane Harvey, we provided vaccinations to the police officers that were helping doing the rescuing. It was important that they got the hepatitis A shot. A lot of doctors' offices were closed at that time, so they came to us looking for solutions.
Well, in that week, we did 1,000 Hep A and tetanus combined at police departments, in the store, and then we took care of Centerpoint Energy's linemen who were also wading through all that water.
The energy here is absolutely fantastic. The determination to help the community come together is unbelievable. You can see the devastation when you when you drive in the roads, all the trees.
Yeah, Category 4 storm, biggest one in a very long time, larger than the state of Florida. Joe was one of the first pharmacists back. He actually slept one night in the pharmacy.
Once we started to get those alerts and being ahead of the storm, we were able to do a lot of prep for the employees, a lot of prep for patients, getting them emergency supplies, making sure that they were prepared.
A lot of the health systems were calling us. Hospitals were running out of medicine too, so we needed to make sure that we were helping the patients in the hospitals to make sure that they got their medicines. The pharmacies were hitting record levels of volume. Fortunately, the company set up a code called Hurry Irma, where we were able to help evacuees, and that helped the people in the shelters, helped people that lost their homes, things like that.
When things like this happen, we're all in this together. Everybody around you is affected equally.
What is really touching me is that all these employees, even though they had a lot of personal problems, were really keen to help the customers.
We have 121 stores in Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, and all of them were impacted during the hurricanes, and the infrastructure had been destroyed. And so little by little, as power has been regained and through our generators, we've been opening up stores.
We have pharmacists that went out on expeditions with doctors to the shelters to make sure that customers and patients were getting what they needed.
A group of people from the office, we went to one of the most devastated towns in the Puerto Rico island, and we gave them 1,900 cases of water.
I went with the Secretary of Government. We went in a helicopter and we go directly to the neighborhood. Those people were completely isolated and they were in need of their insulin, their maintenance drugs, and we have at the moment 6 mobile pharmacies in the island.
To realize that people just don't have drinking water, it breaks our hearts. So how many things can I do? We have such a great team in corporate, working for us, making sure things happen and facilitating a lot of things so we can solve all the issues that we have.
The teams here are a family and they feel very loyal to the community, and many of them don't have power still today, but yet they're here and they're in the store and they're working.
Everybody is very involved in the families, very involved in the company, is very involved in the community. And I wanted to thank them for the fantastic support.
Whenever you have a situation like this, it is important to communicate, it's important to prepare, but it's important just to be human and that our customers are well taken care of and safe. I have never been more inspired or humbled by watching my team help others.
One of the things that's really, really clear here is the true testament of our people, the sense of community and human touch. Is we know that's part of our brand, and you know that our people evidence that every day, but it's when these extreme circumstances come when you really see the test and the true character. Take care of yourself, okay? It's nothing short of amazing.
So I just want to show you how these hurricanes impacted our stores in 2017. So Harvey was weakening and we didn't really think it was going to strengthen as much. And then all of a sudden it strengthened to a Category 4. And it just stayed in Southeast Texas and flooded Houston. So we had to get right in there and pretty much create mapping, help for Houston, try to help them realize which stores were damaged, which stores were closed, and basically had a week to do that before Irma came in and barreled through the Virgin Islands store and then right through the middle of Florida. We had to close all of our stores in the Florida, basically entire state of Florida, except for parts of the Panhandle. Had to deal with the damage there while also still dealing with the damage of Hurricane Harvey and trying to keep track of all this in a mapping application, which I'm going to show right after this. And then a week later, right across the center of the island of Puerto Rico, impacting all 121 stores in Puerto Rico. And then we weren't sure if this was going to hit the Carolinas or what it was going to do. But pretty much we had to go to different lengths to try to do all these maps. So the output of this, right after our Harvey hit, was this asset protection map. Our asset protection department had to determine which stores to close, which stores were closed, which stores were damaged. So me and my team put our heads together and built this application and also a dashboard, which I'm going to show. It contains a lot of important weather information, live weather layers. It includes stores that are closed, stores that have no power. So this is a current status right now. A lot of these stores are closed due to COVID-19. So like, for example, this store in Minneapolis, it's in the Mall of America. The mall is closed, so obviously a store is closed. But there was also a tornado that ripped through the southeast and destroyed one of our stores in Macon, Georgia. So it says tornado here, and it just gives some comments from out in the field and the store manager. And this just shows the damage reports and the power statuses. And the cool things is that asset protection departments and other departments can come in here and see what's going on behind these warnings and what's going on behind these watches. So if they want to pull all these stores that are in this warning polygon, they can go ahead and click on this tornado watch polygon, set it as an incident, and then they're able to pull out any Walgreens locations that are in this warning polygon and bring it out to a CSV. So that way they can monitor these stores and see if anything happens to these stores. And I was able to use my meteorology degree and GIS degree, so this was one of my favorite things as well. So you can see how impactful this is even right now during COVID-19 to see which stores are still closed due to COVID-19 and which stores versus which stores are closed due to damages from weather. Another thing I help asset protection do is this Walgreens crime map. So basically what happened overnight in Houston, our stores were getting robbed through the drive-through window, 1 to 4 in the morning, stealing a certain drug and trying to sell it on the black market. All the department had was an Excel sheet of stores and the times, and there's no patterns, it's hard to determine. So I created some maps. This one over here was an older map from 2012, back before I used ArcGIS Online. And the color of the stores determine the security level. 1, they barely have any security, versus 5, they have all the state-of-the-art security systems. And then the background is what the crime levels are. So this also helped the asset protection department say, hey, why do we have a level 1 security store in a level 4 crime area? So it helped them change their security. And they were able to catch the robbers through the time pattern as they saw the time pattern of the stores being robbed in a circular motion. This one up here, I'm gonna jump into this app. This was actually used in court by our asset protection departments. And what they did was to prove that certain individuals were by our stores based on cell phone tower data. And what I had to do was get all the cell phone tower data from the Houston area, geocode it, and also add in the Excel list of stores that were robbed and the times that were robbed. And what they were able to do is say, well, according to your cell phone, you at 4 a.m. you were at right by this tower, and this Walgreens was robbed at 4:13. So they're able to bring up the cell phone tower and show, 2711 was pinged by their phone at 4 a.m. And if you look at the route of that, it's right by this store that was robbed at 4:13. And they were able to use each and every one of these cell phone towers and when the stores were robbed, and if the attempts were successful, and some other information in here. So they were very happy to be able to use GIS instead of having an Excel and trying to comb through the Excel, be able to use a live interactive map for that. So I call that project CSI Houston. Another interesting one was in 2017, we had that solar eclipse, and our merchandising and supply chain departments wanted to know hey, is this going to hit any of our rural stores where we normally don't see customers? Because we're going to have thousands of people near these stores. And sure enough, in central Wyoming, stores that normally only see a couple hundred customers a day were now about to see several thousand at once. So what they wanted to do was say, do you know the exact times the solar eclipse will hit this area so we can anticipate crowds? Maybe we can sell those solar eclipse glasses, sell snacks, water, just be ready for the crowd. So I created this solar eclipse ArcGIS Online time-lapse map for the merchandising and supply chain departments. And they were able to use this just to see where the solar eclipse would be and at what time down here. So between this minute, it'll start here, and then when it'll impact these areas. So they can click on them and say, oh, this store will be impacted in Riverton, Wyoming around this time, and then also in the populous areas. So there were going to be a lot of people around these stores in south of St. Louis, through Nashville, through the Carolinas. And when the eclipse happens again in a couple years, I'll be ready to use something like this again. This was first when we first used ArcGIS Online, so it's not as advanced, but now with the more capabilities of ArcGIS Online, I'll be able to do more than this. This was one of my very first maps. I had started at Walgreens in March 2011, or as one of my very first projects per se, and I still use it just because it shows how GIS has helped other departments such as e-commerce. So the e-commerce department had an Excel list of stores, and they had how many refills were being done using the mobile app. And it's just a bunch of stores. They don't know what's going on. They wanted to see it visually, like, okay, which stores were having a hard time getting customers to use the mobile app to use their prescription refill versus stores that were doing well. So I was able to aggregate the data into our districts to show the district managers, hey, a lot of these districts in Arizona are having a hard time using the mobile app to refill, and a lot of these in Florida, and also all of Puerto Rico, whereas things are working well in Houston and Dallas, California, basically across the plains. So what they were able to use this map for was go down to Florida, Puerto Rico, Arizona, and help the older populations and some of the language barrier populations, just show them some demos. Hey, you know, you can just take your cell phone, open up the Walgreens app and scan your pill bottle, and voila, you have a refill. And I had done another map a couple months later after this, and it showed improvement in Florida and Arizona, and it showed that having these tutorials for these customers actually helped. One thing that I'm currently working on right now as we speak, I can't really show the app because there's some confidential information in there on picking Walgreens locations for COVID-19 testing. This was our very first location in Bolingbrook, and I just did a quick screenshot. And what it is me and the market managers will go through and click on the stores and edit them and say, hey, this is a good location for a COVID-19 testing site selection because it's not by a Walmart location that's doing testing or other testing locations. It's got a big parking lot, so it won't impact any customers that are shopping. Another thing is we have some stores that we still own the property, but stores just closed down. And that's an example here in Bolingbrook that says open and dark. Dark means it's a store we're no longer using, but we still own the property. And we were able to determine that those were the best locations for these testing sites because there's not going to be a lot of customers impacting the stores and impacting the testing. So we're currently working on expanding testing across the 48 states and Puerto Rico. We're not going to have any in North Dakota, I don't think, and I think we're not going to have any in another state. I'm not sure, but we're working on that, and it's a lot of work to work with the federal government. They're not really providing as much information as we'd like, but we're kind of doing our own thing and saying, here's our list, here's our wave 1 locations, here's our wave 2, here's our wave 3. So keep on the lookout for more Walgreens testing site locations, and just think about that GIS helped determine that and help put that on the federal government website. With that, I can open it up for some questions. Probably went a little under my time, but let me try to get the chat back on here. Sorry, escape. Oh, there we go. Okay. So question was, how did I get the cell data? We have a crime investigation department, and they were able to obtain the cell phone tower data from the various cell phone companies because it was an active investigation. And I told them to ask for latitude, longitude of these, and the cell phone companies did have the latitude and longitudes, and I was able to bring those into the system. So that was actually very lucky. Yes, we did. We in a lot of our rural stores that we don't see as many sales. It's just out in a very small town like this one in Wyoming. We saw a huge increase in sales, like 300%, because people wanted, they're waiting around, and the only thing in that area is that little town, and there's a Walgreens there, so they're stopped at the Walgreens to get water, get batteries for their cameras, anything that they needed, snacks, as they waited for the eclipse to come. So yeah, I thought this map was a lot of fun to make, and it was very used by a lot of different departments to help determine where along the eclipse line they can get supplies out to stores that normally don't see a lot of customers. And another thing that we have is something called Wall Map that I can't show, but it's our internal mapping application that shows where all of our stores are, competitors are, sales information, demographic information. It's used across the entire company, and it's using GIS in the background. ArcGIS indoors. We haven't used ArcGIS indoors yet. We've brought it to our HR department to show, hey, this can be utilized to help people navigate to their next meeting. We have 4 or 5 buildings on campus. We have a huge downtown post office building, the old post office that we had opened for about two weeks or so, then had to close it again because of COVID-19. But we really want to dig into ArcGIS indoors for that, because there's a lot of areas in that building that would be useful. And then supply chain and inventory. I'm working with the divisional vice president for that, showing them what else we can do as far as tracking the trucks that go out to the stores, using the weather application to where, hey, this road has been blocked due to tornado damage, so it's better for this truck to find an alternate route. And then also allocating their supply chain. They're using that right now to help determine if the best locations are selected to the best distribution centers. And I help them with the location allocation thing in Network Analyst, that app in there. Are there any other questions? And this is just the tip of the iceberg on how we use GIS. I get a lot of random requests from a simple map of stores in Colorado Springs, Colorado to, we want to test delivery. Can you help us determine the best 10 markets to test delivery in based on these demographics and the drive times of stores to customers, and just a lot of different things like that, like keeping them under 10 minutes. So a lot of them is, a lot of requests may be simple as that, or a lot of them may be more intuitive and require more analytical work. I think that might be all the questions. Oh, there we go. How many stores does Walgreens have versus how many GIS staff? So we have approximately 9,000 stores. When I had started Walgreens in 2011, there were only 2 other GIS people, and that was including my director. So there's my director, one of the managers who's currently my boss now, and then me. I started as an analyst, and then as we started getting ArcGIS online and more requests kept coming in and we expanded our store base, we've added 4 more people. So now we have 6 people total. We have 5 GIS people and 1 business intelligence person that taps into our GIS databases and creates tools in Tableau and Power BI, and in what's the other one he uses? And there's another application that's used, but in applications like those, some of those business intelligence ones. Okay, that's any favorite apps? Yes, I actually come to like using the Story Map app just because I like telling stories with the maps. I want to create more. The other one we have is the Safe Medical Disposal application that my coworker actually created. And this helped with the opioid pandemic or epidemic and showed where customers can go. And this is a public facing app where customers can go to return their unused medications, and showed a video about combating drug abuse, some of the kiosk guidelines, and then Loxatone at Walgreens to show which states the programs are available. So I'm going to create more story maps and see how else we could help the public. And I definitely want to get more involved with the Geo Event Server, which is which helps with like weather alerts. Right now they have something called it's a different alert system that our security team's using, and they really want to dig into Esri's products like Geo Event Server, where it sends out a notifications to the stores right away if there's a tornado warning. So if there's any customers in the store, they can get them to safety, or any employees. That might be all the questions.
Yeah, I keep thinking we're done with questions, and then right when I'm about to pop in, another one pops up. But I think we finally got through them now. Thank you so much for your time here in your presentation, Patrick. There's a real variety there in the projects that you've done. Really impressive stuff. It seems like Walgreens is very lucky to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can see me again. So that will wrap up today's virtual regional meeting, but we expect to be posting some more soon. Thank you very much to our 3 presenters and all the information they shared with us. It was a wealth of information. Thought it was a great meeting. And I want to thank everyone else who just signed up to view, our viewers, our participants. I hope that it was there was some useful information for you, and I hope that apart from the dings at the beginning, I hope it went pretty smoothly. If there were any major issues, please let us know. You can drop that in chat, or you can email us. Anything that we might not be aware of, we're working on the dings. Hopefully that'll be solved next time. And if you'll be able to view this recording online, and the dings won't be there. So yeah, thank you everyone again. I think we're ready to wrap up here. I've been your host, Thomas O'Malley, Program Committee Chair. Thank you all for coming out to the meeting. Have a good rest of your day, and keep an eye out for future meetings. Thanks.